What's up, guys? This is Pink Across. If this picture makes you feel strong emotions, you're in the right place. I'm certainly feeling a little enraged myself. There's nothing more frustrating than losing to a stall team and feeling like you have no options. So I'm going to teach you guys how to stall proof your teams and some of the most effective ways of doing that. Now, throughout this video, we're going to go from the most to least easily implemented strategies. This does not mean most to least effective. Just because something is more niche or a little bit harder to fit onto a team doesn't mean it's less effective at breaking stall, but we're just going to start with some of the more mainstream tactics. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. The number one thing you can do to stall proof your team is adding a Galarian Slowking. You might be thinking, what are you talking about, man? Future Sight is not breaking any stall team. People know about Future Sight. This isn't a new tactic. They have Protect Pokemon. They have Protect Blissey, which is taking maybe 10% from Future Sight. How are you expecting to break a team like this? Well, you don't. Future Sight is not going to be what's breaking their team. What Future Sight plus Chilly Reception allows you to do is get in whatever you want, whenever you want, on whatever Pokemon you want. And that is a huge, huge tool against stall. What you do is you can use Chilly Reception to safely pivot in Pokemon because Stall doesn't have anything strong enough that can take on a Galarian Slowking. It can't break it. It doesn't really have anything other than maybe Gliscor Earthquake. Even then, it's dying to an Ice Beam and doesn't even OHKO Galarian Slowking. So you really have a free entry against everything, and with regen, it can last a very long time. On top of that, Future Sight, as you just said, Stall has options, but it's forced into those options. Not every Pokemon on Stall is running Protect. If they want to use Protect, they're going to have to go into their Alomomola, they're going to have to go into their Blissey, they're going to have to go into their Protect Tinglu, and when they do, you can do whatever you want. You can set hazards. You can set up a Swords Dance. You can get your Breaker into position. You can put yourself in whatever position you want. You can heal something up. And that amount of freedom against the stall team, never having to worry about predicting because you can always put them in exactly the spot you want, is incredibly valuable. So even though you're probably not going to straight up break them with Future Sight, having this Pokemon in your team will make every other anti-stall strategy so much stronger that it is an incredible resource to any team that wants to be anti-stall. Number two here, we've got Hazard Stack plus Knockoff. So Hazard Stack in general is a really great playstyle right now. You can set spikes with Gliscor, Clodsire, Tinglu, prevent removal with Goldengo, and there are a lot of Stealth Rock setters that are viable. But what makes Hazard Stack beat Stall is which Knockoff users you're using. My personal three favorite are right here: Iron Valiant, Meowscarada, and Ogerpon Wellspring. For Iron Valiant, I run heavy duty boots, and with maximum special attack investment, Terra Fairy, Moonblast, Thunderbolt, Knockoff, Close Combat. And here's the reason I run that set. There are three knockoff absorbers that Stall has, and those are Corviknight, Clefable, and Gliscor. Those are the big three you need to watch out for. Because if your knockoff absorber if your knockoff user is something that can't break or really seriously threaten Clefable, Gliscor, and Corviknight, you aren't going to be busting past anything. If your knockoff user, say, is in a Lowland Muck, your opponent goes into Corviknight every single time and they never worry. But if it's an Iron Valiant, if they go into their Clefable, suddenly they're taking a powerful Moonblast and they have to switch out. If they go into Gliscor, they're taking Moonblast. If they go into Corviknight, they're taking a Thunderbolt. And what do they do then? Well, it's time they have to switch into stuff they don't want getting knocked off. This is when they switch into the Clodsire, the Toxapex, the Blissey, the Dondozo. These are the things that come in when your opponent doesn't have any options. And once they start having those Pokemon get knocked off, it's only a matter of time before they lose. Because those grounded Pokemon taking all that spikes and Stealth Rock damage, they can't take it, and the stall team crumbles. Meowscarada does a similar thing. I also typically run heavy duty boots on this. Flower Trick with Terra Grass, Knockoff, U-Turn, and Thunder Punch with Protean. So what that'll do is Thunder Punch will break past Corviknight. Terra Grass Flower Trick will break past Gliscor and Clefable. And then what do they go into? Well, this is, as I said, that's when they start going into their Toxapex, their Terra Flying Alomomola. And once those things get knocked off, you're on the path to winning. Now, Ogerpon Wellspring in particular is really effective because the only thing on stall that can really handle it is stuff that's using Terra Dragon. And once something has used Terra Dragon and been knocked off, it really can't switch into Ogerpon Wellspring anymore because it's taking so much from Stealth Rock and Spikes. My personal favorite set is Swords Dance, Knockoff, Hornleech, and Ivy Cudgel, mainly because since the only thing that's probably going to be walling you is a Terra Dragon Dondozo, once that's knocked off and taking hazard damage, with its only recovery being rest, all it takes is a few clever doubles, and your opponent will suddenly lose to Ogerpon. Now, there are other knockoff users that can do it, but these are probably the three most viable that I would recommend putting on your hazard stack teams. Next up, we have Goldango. This Pokemon alone is a stall-busting machine. Probably the most reliable Goldango stall-breaking set is Choice Specs with Shadow Ball, Psyshock, Focus Blast, and Make It Rain. That set has absolutely no answers on a stall team. You can really threaten Terra Dark Blissey with Focus Blast. Shadow Ball is a great general move for hitting a lot of incoming Pokemon on stall like Corviknight. Make It Rain can do massive damage. Psyshock will destroy Blissey and Clodsire and Toxapex. Nothing on stall can handle this set. Another really great way is nasty plot sets. You can handle Blissey with Psyshock, handle Clodsire with Psyshock. You can also, even to account for Terra Dark Blissey, run things like Dazzling Gleam and Focus Blast. Overall, there are so many Goldengo sets that break stall. Just whatever suits your team best. As long as you're prepared for Clodsire and Terra Dark Blissey, you have a really good shot at beating stall. Although, as I said, Choice Specs Goldango is the most reliable way to break stall because there is no one Goldango set that will get past all Terra types of Blissey and Clodsire. Now, unwallable breakers. There are tons of these. Up on here, I have Guts, Flame Orb Conkeldurr, Loaded Dice or Choice Band Breloom, Swords Dance, Mold Breaker Haxorus, Choice Banded Hoopa Choice Band Hisuian Samurott, and Life Orb or Choice Band Crawdon, but these are only a few. There are things like Choice Banded Arcanine Hisui, even Tyranitar with Choice Band Knockoff and Stone Edge. There are so many lower tier breakers that nothing in OU can wall. The reason you don't see them a lot is because they're often slow and don't have much defensive utility, which makes them really difficult to fit on a team. But if you're able to support any one of these monsters, your opponent will not see it coming and their stall team will get absolutely destroyed. King Gambit plus Help. So, King Gambit is well known for its stall breaking capabilities, especially with some Supreme Overlord boosts. It can really pack a punch, and even Dondozo is scared of it, with its only recovery being rest. What do I mean by help? Well, that's important to know here. Help means one thing that your team is okay against stall, functioning with a few KOs. So you need to let something on your team die for King Gambit to get Supreme Overlord boost. You might need to let 2, 3 Pokemon die so King Gambit can do enough to threaten Dondozo. But another thing that really helps is stuff that chips Corviknight and Dondozo, which are really the only two things that can afford to stand up to King Gambit. One great way of doing that is with Ogerpon Wellspring. That puts a lot of pressure on both of them, and if a Dondozo is knocked off, taking rocks damage, taking Supreme Overlord boosted Kowtow Cleaves, and all it can do is rest to recover, that Dondozo is in a really scary position. The reason I have Terra Fire up here is because some stall teams are going to be carrying Moltres or Will-O-Wisp users, and that'll make King Gambit a lot more reliable. The other big thing to note is if you want your King Gambit to be breaking stall, you need leftovers. If you don't have leftovers, you won't have the longevity to continue through the game. So either Wish or leftovers, but you need some way to keep King Gambit healthy. Next up, we got Knockoff and plus a strong special attack. So two great examples I have here are Thundurus and Walking Wake. This Walking Wake set with Terra Water I'm particularly fond of. Surf, Draco Meteor, Knockoff, and Flip Turn. So you have a special attacker strong enough that it can threaten everything except Blissey. That's the idea. It's got to be strong enough so that everything is afraid of coming in except for Blissey. And when the Blissey comes in, it gets knocked off. When the Blissey gets knocked off, you set Stealth Rock. Suddenly, the Blissey can no longer switch into that special attacker. Especially if you have a pivot move, like in the case of Thunderous Therian has Volt Switch and Walking Wake has Flip Turn. With Stealth Rock and Flip Turn chips, soon enough that Blissey won't be able to switch in, and you'll have the team completely broken down. This also works really well for some maybe Assault Vest users and things like specially defensive Toxapex. A lot of things are going to hate hazards that can you normally switch in on these monstrous special breakers. Taunt is huge. It's not often very good in OU, but there are some really great taunt users. Taunt, Nasty Plot, Hydreigon will destroy stall. Landorus can sometimes run Swords Dance, Smackdown, Earthquake, and Taunt with some kind of Terra type to resist Dondozo hits like Terra Water. Thunderous Therian can run Nasty Plot, Taunt, Thunderbolt, and either Focus Blast or Grass Knot. And classic Heatran, Magma Storm, Taunt, Earth Power, and some kind of coverage. Normally, I would say in old generations that any stall that's losing to Heatran is poorly built, but because of all the pressure on stall teams this generation, often Heatran with Taunt will give them a really tough time. Next up is Block. This is a very, very niche option to beat Stall, but Slowbro and Garganackle can do it. Garganackle is definitely the better of the two block users, but it can trap a lot of team members. Garganackle can usually take down Toxapex, Dondozo, Gliscor, and a lot of other Stall Pokemon if it can manage to surprise them with Block. This isn't my favorite way of beating Stall, though. Magic Guard Clefable can at times outstall Garganackle Salt Cures, and if the stall user knows that you have block, sometimes they can play around it with pivot moves and the right Pokemon. We've got Stored Power. Once again, not a great way of breaking stall, but it can apply some pressure. Take Heart, Stored Power, Scald, Manaphy can sometimes force a Terra on something like a Haze Clodsire and potentially even get a burn off on it. So getting status and forcing your opponent to use their Terra is not a bad deal. Manaphy can also, if the opponent does have a Calm Mind Blissey, really have a lot of opportunities to fish for crits over the course of a game. Clefable and Hatterene do much the same thing. A lot of damage with Calm Mind plus stored power. And one notable thing it can do is force Blissey to use its soft boiled. So if you have a strong special attacker like a Goldengo on your team, maybe getting rid of those soft boileds is really such a big deal that stored power, despite the fact that it can't break stall alone, could help your team become more stall proof. Lastly, we have strong pivot spam. Reason this is so late and not one of the best ways to break stall is because stall has a lot of protect Pokemon and a lot of regenerator Pokemon. That's going to make it hard to really take full advantage of pivot spam. But if your pivots are strong enough and your team is well structured, this can be a huge threat. Now, when I say pivot spam, I do not mean your U-turn Zapdos and your U-turn Gliscor. I mean things that are really strong, like Choice Band Low Kicks, Choice Band Basculegion in the Rain, Volt Switch Thunderous Therian. These are the things that really chip down stall. But you have to be very careful when playing around, because if you miss a prediction and click Volt Switch on a ground type, or if your opponent goes for Protect and they can see what move you're going for, you can lose the Vortex pretty easily. There will be a Pokepaste with all the sets I described in the description. Check it out, stall proof your teams. If you have any questions or any other ideas, or you want to ask in the comments, hey, Cross, does this break stall? Do you think this would be effective? Just let me know. Let's burn Blissey to the ground. Okay, have a great day, guys. See you next time.